All right, all right. I think we are live now. We should see some people rolling in. I don't know where I see that. Is that the right-hand side? Chat, maybe? Look at me. I don't know how to understand this platform. All right, so my name is Alex Burkett. I am a co-founder at Omniscient Digital, and I welcome you to this edition of Office Hours, where we're hosting Jess Cook. As you're rolling in, we're going to start in a couple minutes. We'll get started real soon. As you're rolling in, if you could please introduce yourself in the chat, that would be amazing. Maybe your name, company, title, where you're calling in from. I think that's a fun one. And I always like to ask the book that you're reading. I think that's a good conversation starter. So, for example, my name is Alex Burkett. I am the co-founder at Omniscient Digital, and I'm calling in from Austin, Texas. Been traveling so much. I was in Boston last week for Inbound and Hawaii before that. So I've just been all over the place, and I'm excited to be back home. And I haven't been reading as much lately. I've been spending all of my time that I'm not working. I'm trying to learn Bohemian Rhapsody on the guitar, which is an insane endeavor. Trying to like transcribe the piano parts and all that. But I'm reading this book, kind of a strange book for me to read because I'm not married. But it's called "This Is How Your Marriage Ends." It's almost painful to read. This guy, I guess, like went viral on a blog post after he got divorced and just was like tell all and very like self-reflective. But I'm finding the book fascinating on just general relationship, not even marriage relationships. It's just a very good read. So that's what I'm reading right now. Psychology of Money is awesome. That was one of my favorite finance books. I read that this year as well. Jess, what are you reading?
I am not reading anything right this second, but I did just finish Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers. Highly recommended. I don't know, just a great book for anybody that's trying to like sell or market pretty much anything.
Interesting. Yeah, I've listened to him on a couple podcasts, and he's super sharp. I follow him on Twitter too. I think I read more tweets than I do books nowadays, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it is the way it is. All right, let's get into this. We're gonna send a recording out if anybody's coming in late, but let's get going. So if you forgot what you signed up for, you're here for finding your content sweet spots with Jess Cook. So in this workshop, Jess is going to discuss the 3 components of a content sweet spot, why your brand point of view is the most important ingredient, and how to build and use content sweet spots to never run out of angles again. This is going to be hands-on, so you're going to have some homework. There's some polls. Actually, you can look down at the right-hand corner of the screen, and there should be polls already. And also ask questions as the workshop is going on. We're going to field them at the end. So biography real quick. Jess Cook is a creative director turned content marketer and strategist with more than 15 years of experience conceptualizing and executing breakthrough work for brands like Eggo, Rice Krispies, great brands, Blue Cross, Cottonelle, and McDonald's. In 2019, she made the move to B2B SaaS, where she is currently the head of content at adtech startup Marpipe. She has a knack for leading cross-functional teams towards a common goal, bringing order to the often chaotic creative process, crafting insight-driven campaigns, and bringing stories to life via long and short-form content. All right, take it away, Jess.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining Finding Your Content Sweet Spots. Really excited to walk you through this today. Like Alex said, it's going to be really hands-on. We have a few little exercises we're going to go through, so it's going to be fun. So over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to pinpoint content angles that are ownable to your specific brand. Using this system, which is the same system I use at Marpipe, where I am a team of one running content marketing, you'll never run out of ideas again. So a little bit about me. I am a former copywriter and creative director. Like Alex said, my background is kind of in the agency world, B2C brands. But at one point I decided I wanted to try something new, and I made the switch over to content marketing. I'm currently the current head of content at Marpipe, which is an ad tech platform that lets you test your ad creative. I'm a mom and a wife. That's my family there in the picture, my 2 girls who are 9 and 3 and tons of fun. I also love to run and listen to all things true crime. I also love moderately priced fashion and overpriced tacos. So, all right, enough about me. Let's get into the reason that you're here. So what is a content sweet spot? A content sweet spot is kind of the overlap of 3 things. And that is your buyer's problems, the market trends, and your brand point of view. We're going to get into all 3 of these. We're going to understand the overlap. We're going to understand where that sweet spot is. But really, to sum it all up, a content sweet spot is an ownable position on a given topic. And when I say ownable, I mean, only your brand could have that position. And this is a really, really great little niche to find, because it means that the competition can't say it. And we're going to learn how to find that spot and to capitalize on it as much as possible. So if you haven't already, hop into the poll at the bottom, the polls at the bottom of the screen. There are 2. The first one is, oh, I have them backwards. Sorry. Or we'll flip-flop. All right. The first one, do you feel like your content could only come from your brand? Or do you feel like, hey, maybe someone else in my industry could say this? So go ahead and take a moment to answer that poll. Cool. All right. Poll number 2 is, how confident are you in your ability to continuously come up with new content topics and angles? Some people are like, this is my jam. I am really good at this. I can come up with things all day long, fire them off, have great thought leadership, have great just like how-to topics. Other people, like, sometimes inspiration strikes and other times it's a real struggle. And that was usually me, where I would have this great idea and then I would kind of hit all the ankles on it and then I wouldn't know what to write about next. So let's take a moment just to answer those 2 polls really quickly. And then Carissa or Alex, if you can help me out, is there a way to see the results of those polls somehow?
Yeah, so on my end, I had to actually vote and now I can see. So for, do you feel like your content could only come from your brand? 9 people, 56% said I try, but it's hard to differentiate from our competitors. Then followed by, no, I could use some help with that. And then yes, it's very unique.
Awesome.
Would you like the other one?
Yeah, that'd be great. Sorry, okay. I can't see it on my end.
Okay, no worries.
So,
how confident are you in your ability to continuously come up with new content, topics, and angles? 12 people said somewhat confident. Inspiration strikes here and there. Other times it's a struggle. 2 people said very confident. 1 person said not confident.
Okay, thank you so much, Carissa. So, we have some people who are confident in this area or feel like, hey, I understand how to create content that can only come from my brand. Hopefully this will just give you some new ways of looking at it. But it sounds like the majority of folks here could just use a little bit of help with this. And I'm really excited to show you this kind of tool, this method that I use that will help you get there a little faster. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So again, the kind of overlap of these 3 things is where you're going to find that content sweet spot. I'm sure you can guess that your most important one is your brand point of view. And we're going to talk about why a little bit. Your brand point of view, what is that? So brand point of view, first of all, you can have more than one. I think sometimes brand point of view makes it sound like you can only have one, and that's what everything that you create needs to be built around. But that's not the case. You are going to encounter a lot of different market trends and buyer problems and questions from customers and prospects that you're going to have a brand point of view on. I'm guessing that most of you here are from some sort of SaaS or tech company that you're in kind of a marketing role. And, if you think about it, a SaaS company should absolutely have an opinion on how the problem their product solves should be solved. So that is kind of where we're going to begin. Brand point of view is an imperative opinion. It is something that your customers or buyers should do, must do, need to do in order to compete. So whether they have those words in it or not, they should feel very imperative. They're based on how your brand answers buyers' problems and market trends. So, for instance, Marpipe helps you test your ad creative. So we have a lot of opinions about how ad creative should be tested, how often, what kinds of things should you test, why we're better and different than other testing methods, right? So lots of different brand opinions. And it tells the market what you stand for. And this is really important, I think, when you're trying to grow a company. If you are looking for an ideal customer that doesn't feel, if your point of view only works for your ideal customer, that's magic. There are people who probably aren't going to like your brand point of view, and that's okay. You aren't going to be for them. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how these three things interact with each other. First of all, buyer problems and market trends are the two parts of this equation you cannot control. These are cards that you are dealt within maybe your industry or just business worldwide. Sometimes we see that there are market trends that come up in, let's say, only financial services or mainly in marketing, right? An example might be like iOS 14. Making it really difficult for people to be able to target. A global example is let's remember a couple of years ago, COVID-19 forces us all to work from home, right? That was a market trend. Now you have a buyer problem. You have, let's say, chief operating officers who are trying to figure out how they're going to get all of their employees to talk to each other, to work together, to collaborate, right? And so that's when you really started to see a lot of brands come forward with a point of view of you should embrace video conferencing, right? Like we're doing here, or like Zoom or Loom did. You should embrace asynchronous communication. That was Slack. That was how they capitalized on those buyers' problems and market trends. So now that you kind of know this mechanism, you'll start to see it in different places. The thing about these two things you can't control is that you can use your brand point of view to answer them, right? So again, going back to that Slack example, where people were wondering, how are we going to communicate? How are we going to keep track of projects or talk through things, right? When now we're all kind of scattered around, people have their kids at home, right? All of these problems arose from this one market trend. And Slack was like, oh, hey, we have a product for that, right? Microsoft Teams created a huge campaign around people working through the COVID-19 pandemic. So you can answer those things with your brand point of view. Another thing to know about buyers' problems and market trends, they will ebb and flow and change together. So just as we we're still kind of coming out of COVID-19, but no one wants to go back into an office. Not no one. A lot of people don't want to go back into an office. So, while the market trend of not having to be apart now has kind of come up, the problem is that not everyone still wants to get back together, right? And so now we have companies coming forward with this new brand point of view of, well, how do we continue this, right? And what are some tools that are coming out now that let us continue this new push to work from home? Your brand point of view will not change unless, and this is a pretty big unless, your product changes in some way that is, just a complete 180 from what it was before, right? The brand point of view really springs from how your product works, how it solves problems, and what it does for your customers. So unless those three things change, your brand point of view will not change. So even as those market trends and buyer problems shift around, you can still answer them with a really, really solid brand point of view. Okay, so let's get to the point where these are overlapping and we're understanding where that sweet spot is. It's not exactly where you think it might be. So you can see here, the sweet spot is not always the point where all three of these things overlap. It happens to be in the space where brand point of view overlaps the other two and where the three come together. So the idea here is that, you can write about the market trends and buyers problems and bring in your point of view for all of those things. You can also write about a buyer problem that maybe has been around for a really long time. I'll give you an example. Marpipe, we talk a lot about people making decisions based on creative decisions based on opinion, right? That has been a problem since the advent of advertising. That's not really something that's gone away with any new market trend. And now we are seeing this rise of people really wanting to use data to create better ads. And so our brand POV will reflect that. You might also have a market trend, right, that comes up that doesn't necessarily have an overlap with a buyer's problem yet. Or you are trying to maybe predict some things that could happen based on the trends that are happening right now. Prediction pieces are very hot in content, right? So that's why that overlap is larger than maybe you think it might be. One place you never want to write about is the spot in the middle without the brand point of view. That is a no-no. And the reason is it gives your buyer no clear next step. Really writing about buyer problems and market trends is the job of the media, right? The newspapers, the publishers, to talk through things in a really, really objective manner. But as marketers, we want to be very subjective. We want to tell people, these are the problems, these are the trends, this is how you should solve for them. So let's look at this in action. This is an example of a content sweet spot from Marpipe, and then we're going to get into some exercises together. So market trend. iOS 14 came out a couple of years ago, and in that was a little checkbox that people had to ask, hey, do you want this app to track your activity across other apps? Only 4% of people said yes, which made it very difficult to target and niche down audiences the way that we used to. The buyer problem from that is now I'm wasting media budget because my audiences are so broad. Conversions are way harder to come by because these audiences are so big and I can't target them the way that I used to. So our brand point of view on that is there's a performance lever advertisers will always have over this problem. So don't worry about tracking, about targeting. Your biggest lever is your ad creative. So long as that works, you can have a straight line of sight into your customers' good targeting or not. So, all right, who is ready for a little bit of an exercise? We have quite a few coming up here. So the first one, if you can have, I'll give you a minute really quickly to open up a new Word doc or to grab a pen and paper, but grab something that you can jot a few notes down on. Okay, so the first step here is we're going to write down as many market trends for your buyers, for your specific brand as possible right now. Go ahead and start that now. I'll give you about 2 minutes to do that. And as that happens, I'm going to scroll some of the chat here. All right, Ben. Yeah, I see your question here. I will absolutely answer that at the end. No problem. All right, just about 1 more minute to write down as many market trends as possible. Ooh, Harish, I love that you're doing this. If you want to share them in the chat, please do. That would be great. All right, just about 15 more seconds. Yes, Naveen agreed. Nice, Alex. Thank you. This is great. All right. Next step. We're going to take 2 minutes. We're going to write down as many buyer problems as possible. So if you can think about, and you can even refer back to some of the trends that you just created. What are some problems those things are spurring, or challenges, or a different way of thinking that those things are spurring? So go ahead, take just about a minute and a half now to write some of those things down. So I'm going to go off of, just to kind of talk through this a little bit. Harish had some really great examples around AI, right? So if you have AI-powered content creation, what kind of problems does that create for people? Well, let's see. For content marketer, it might create the problem of, am I going to be pushed out of the market here, right? Like, is AI going to take over my job? Well, maybe I can use AI, but how do I use AI? Maybe I can use it, to my advantage. What does that mean for search engine optimization? I'm concerned about the fact that maybe using this tool is going to make it my piece not as desirable for Google to crawl, or maybe it won't feel like it was written at the same high quality as if a human were to do that. So just thinking through, like, if you think through it in that fashion, where it's like there's a market trend, maybe it spurs a buyer problem, that can help as well. Okay, I know we're moving quick. I'm trying to make the most of our time. I'm going to jump to the next one. I now want you to write down as many brand points of view as possible. So you kind of see what we're doing here. We're trying to make those 3 kind of pieces of your Venn diagram. So start writing down some brand points of view that maybe answer some of those. Or what you might do is you might write down a point of view that you know your brand has. And it may lead you then to think about, oh, that's a problem I didn't write down yet, or that's a market trend I didn't address yet. So go ahead and take the next minute and a half now to write down as many brand points of view as possible. Going off of that AI example again, because I just think it's a really, really good one. Let's say a brand point of view for an AI writing tool might be something like, we're not going to take your job. We're your new partner, right? We're going to help you create better content. Maybe it's something around, don't worry about the search engine. We're going to create great, really, really high quality pieces for you. And, maybe that's because we're built, to understand Google's algorithm, something to that effect. Yes, David, absolutely. I love testing headlines. Give everyone just another 5 seconds or so. Okay, now here comes the fun part. Start making some combinations. Find a buyer problem, find a market trend, a buyer problem, and a brand point of view that feel like they work together. That feels like, the trend kind of caused the problem that leads to the point of view. So through your writing, kind of go through and make some combinations to help you find a sweet spot. And if it helps, just for the next minute and a half, I'll go back to this slide here so you can see an example of 3 that work together. That's a pretty good one, Harish. I would try to put like a should or a must or a need. something that makes it feel a little bit more opinionated, right? You should contextually collaborate with your clients and team using AI-powered research because blank. These don't have to be like customer facing either. These aren't going to be the headline on your homepage. These are really internal facing points of view that help you understand how to build content around this thinking, if that's helpful. Okay, we are coming up on our final two pieces of homework here. So the next one is take one of those combinations that you just created and just jot down really quickly a little content sweet spot Venn diagram so that you have made it officially official that you have a sweet spot. And I'll give you another maybe 30 seconds or so to do that. Okay, coming up on our final little exercise here. Come up with 3 angles for that sweet spot. So, mistakes that are made when people don't do this. Let's see what else. Here's a list of 7 things you should try when doing it this way, right? Try to come up with some angles that you could build, either a blog or a great Twitter thread or a one-page PDF. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you know that I really like minimum viable content, very small pieces of content you can test out and see if it sticks. So think around those lines for the next minute and 15 seconds. Love that, Harish. Think about an angle around that. If there are, 3 mistakes people make when they try to use AI to create audience personas, right? But that's a really great one. All right, just another maybe 15 seconds here. All right, awesome. I know that was really quick, but I think sometimes putting those constraints around exercises like that are super helpful in just like getting stuff down and really figuring out a new method. So I hope that was really helpful. So next, what I'd love to do, and Carissa, maybe you can help me with this, is do a little show and tell. I don't know if it's possible to open it up for people to speak or if we just should use the chat to do this. But if we could start sharing just like one kind of content sweet spot, kind of like, bullet of those 3 things, and then maybe one corresponding angle.
Yes, and I think I can also invite people to participate if they want. Just let me know in the chat and I can bring you up. Otherwise, you can chat and just type it out.
Oh, that'd be great. Who wants to volunteer? Anybody? All right, Naveen. Thank you. Amazing.
Okay, so I've just invited you, Naveen. So if you can accept.
Oh, Sarah. Sarah is too, if we want to invite Sarah. Oh, there's Naveen. Awesome.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, Naveen.
Yeah, all right, all right. So I'll just not be sharing my camera because it's a little too late for me and I'm not in the best
That's okay.
visual shape right now. So
No
I'll
worries.
just talk about the brand POV. So because I am focusing on YouTube creators as my target audience, so my brand POV is that creators cannot unlock growth with standard titles and thumbnails. So the key problem here is that a lot of creators simply stick their titles in their thumbnails. So especially when you're writing text, you need to. I use YouTube quite a lot, so I understand what makes a difference, right? In YouTube titles and thumbnails. So I would say one of those Venn diagram things you said, the statements that I have come up with is that you should stop using standard titles and thumbnails, so you stop struggling with your YouTube growth. Second one is you should stop using standard titles and thumbnails, so you can increase your YouTube click-through rate, right? In terms of angles, I can visualize them as three mistakes creators make when struggling on YouTube, or what's the one thing that can make a dramatic difference to your YouTube growth or YouTube CTR growth, something like that.
Those are fantastic. I think like if I were to read those, I would know exactly what I'm going to learn about. I love that you kind of add on the end what the result is going to be to increase your click-through rate, to increase your growth. That is really, really enticing. So great job there, Naveen. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. I will sort of work on this and come up with some more of these ideas, and you might see some of them on LinkedIn soon.
Amazing. That'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and I think Sarah's up next.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Okay, so the issue we would have is that IT spend is way too high. It never seems to stop. It can be really hard to predict. So the result of that could be that there's pushback on budget. That's a real issue. So then some of the brand point of view would be that they should use an as a service offering that's predictable. Or another point of view would be that they could do certain actions to reduce tech debt, like just the different things we can talk about for that. So then the angle could be maybe, 3 ways to reduce your tech debt, 5 ways to I don't know if this one is good, but like 5 ways to solve for the mistakes that were made in the sprint to the cloud or something like that.
Very nice. Love that. Yeah, I think that's great. I think you're really touching on some pain points there that were brought on by like clear trends that people kind of had no control over.
Right.
And I love the way that you're kind of talking about that in order to, teach someone or bring someone value and like help them solve this problem. Those are really great, Sarah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Amazing. I think we're kind of at the time where we want to open it up to questions. Is that right?
Yes, Alex, do you want to hop on and help moderate?
Yes, I'm back. That was awesome, by the way. David and I were talking in Slack. You're sending us through an existential pondering as to like our own content positioning. So we've got a lot of work to do. Yeah, this is awesome. So questions. Y'all can vote for the questions too. I added a bunch in.
Oh, sweet.
Some from people who marked in the chat and some from my own.
Okay.
So if you upvote, You can let me know which ones are more interesting than others. What happens when your brand point of view and your competitors are very similar? And this is from Caroline.
Hi, Caroline. Yes. So this is a tough one. I completely understand this. And I think this is where you have to really dig and figure out what is your differentiator. You have to have one, or else you wouldn't be in business, right? You would get swallowed up by your competitors. So I think there are things like, talking to your product people to figure out exactly what makes you different and how you can spin that kind of thing into your point of view. Talking to your sales team to talk about, how are they selling your product? How are they talking to people who come to them in a discovery call and they're saying, well, how are you different than X, Y, and Z? What do they say? Right. So I would really dig around your company and find the people who have the answers, because they are out there, and then incorporate those answers into your point of view, because you definitely have those differentiators, and they should absolutely show up in how you're presenting yourself to the market in your content.
Whose job is it to come up with and manage the brand point of view? Product marketing, content, brand, CEO, some collaboration?
Oh, that's a really great question. I would think if you have a brand marketing team, it would be on that team. If you don't, it feels like it should be a pretty big collaboration between product marketing and content marketing. Or if you have a corporate marketing kind of group or org, simply because product marketers are going to be the ones who are going to help you really find that differentiation and understand why the product gives you that differentiation. And usually content marketers or corporate marketers are usually the ones who do a really great job of spinning that into a story. So should be some nice collaboration there, unless you have a brand team who can work to do that as well.
You mentioned that you love minimum viable content. So what are some examples of minimum viable content or cheap ways that you can test angles and content concepts?
Yes. Okay. I have two really great examples of this. One is organic social. So if you have an idea, one of my favorite things to do is create a really solid social post about it. Usually, and Google this if you have not heard of this yet, I try to make it 0-click content. So Google 0-click content. That is a pretty big trend right now in content marketing, something that we should all be striving for and practicing. But I'll try to make it like a really, really solid post, right? And I'll see kind of like, how do people react to that? Do I get some conversation? Do I get some shares? Do I even just get a lot of likes? That's a pretty good signal. And so I'll take that engagement as a signal that like, there's something here and we should explore this a bit more. Now I can expand it into a blog post. Maybe, Marpipe, we have a podcast. We can talk about this on a podcast. We can then split that up into smaller pieces of content. So you can start to scale an idea pretty quickly, so long as you do these small tests to see, what is resonating with your audience. Another thing I like to do if it's a bit more of a visual idea is to create a one-page PDF of an idea. We just did this with our customers. We created a decision tree on when to test and when to scale. And it was a huge hit. And now we're going to do like a webinar on it because it just helped people make decisions faster. It was a very visual piece of content. As you can imagine, a decision tree would be with kind of all different arrows flowing all over, showing you which way to go after you answered some questions. And it was just one page worth of effort. And so that was really exciting to see that take off, and that's something that we need to continue talking about.
Cool. And then this one's from Ben. I've always felt like brand point of view is a major missing piece from a lot of content initiatives. But in past experience, a lot of my own efforts to introduce it as a creative differentiator get nuked by, quote, Google doesn't want that pushback. So how to deal with this pushback?
Aha. All right. So I think you are probably talking to a creative director who has definitely like an old school mentality, or just doesn't really understand what Google is really looking for, especially in the latest update where they're looking for quality content, mostly written by humans that has value for the reader. And I think, I think there's this idea that SEO content, right? SEO content needs to just bring people in, just fill it with keywords, right? But again, when we go back to that Venn diagram, if you write that piece without some point of view, your reader isn't going to know what to do next. They might have a little more information than they did when they got there, but they're not going to know what action they should take in order to be successful, or just take the next right step to help them solve this problem. So I think on that, I would say, try to create pieces with that point of view to prove that point that, people out there need to know what to do next. And it's our job to show them that.
Yeah, I think on a meta level, that's my brand point of view, is that just because it's search content or SEO content doesn't mean it can't be good content or have opinions in it.
Yeah. I think I just heard this on a podcast, and I'm failing to remember which one now, but it was just this week. Let's stop saying we write for SEO. Let's say we write for search audiences, right? We're writing for people who are searching for this thing, and we still need to give them valuable information, because what we don't want to happen is them get here and then see that it's garbage and then leave.
I like that. All right. I think that's all we have. So Jess, do you have any calls to action? Anything else that you wanted to add in here?
I do. I have one more little thing that I just wanted to share with everyone, and you will get this slideshow as a follow-up. But this is part of a bigger cohort course that I am creating right now, called the Content Team of One Playbook. I am a team of one at Marpipe, and I really love to teach people the systems and things that I use and that I do that help me stay afloat and stay strategic, as opposed to drowning in kind of the day-to-day as you can tend to do as a team of one. So I just wanted to thank you all for being here today and give you just kind of a coupon code to use for that cohort course, because this is part of that course. So you have seen part of it, and really excited and hopeful that you want to see more. Thank you all for coming today. This was really fun.
Cool. Thank you so much. And then 2 updates on my side. These are just upcoming events. Our next office hours is going to be September 27th, and that is with Kevin Indig, who was most recently at Shopify. He's been at G2, at Atlassian, and we're doing a fireside chat. We're mainly going to talk about building SEO growth loops and product-led SEO, but the conversation could stray. You can ask him questions as well, so that's going to be a fireside chat. And then we have a large event coming up in October, the 11th, 12th, and 13th. It is all about converting with content marketing. So that is going to include speakers like Andy Crestodina, Talia Wolf, Chanel Mullen, and tons of other people. So that is available. Carissa just posted a link. So those are 2 upcoming events from our side. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.